Lost in the Fog by Mr. Tall. Hello, I'm Mr. Tall, and I'm very, very, very tall. Tremendously tall, in fact. Tall enough to step over your house. So tall that I cannot find a bed long enough to fit my very, very, very long legs into. So, do you know what's the first thing that I do every morning? I'll give those long legs of mine a good stretch. When I do, my legs reach out through the bedroom door and wide down to the bottom of the stairs. That's some stretch, I'll tell you. Now, there are times when it is very handy being as tall as I am. At football matches, I always get the best view of the game. When I go to the zoo, I can feed the giraffes. Oh, but you can't. But there are times when it is a downright, or rather, an upright nuisance being as tall as I am. For instance, I cannot get into a car. That is, not all of me at the same time. I have to stick my legs out through the sunroof. I also tend to bob my head rather a lot. I'm going to tell you a story about a time when it wasn't very useful being tall. The other day, I went for a short walk. 40 miles. But that's a short walk for me. It was very cold, and it had snowed the day before. Now, when I got to the end of my walk and turned back for home, it started to get foggy. And it got foggier, and foggier, and foggier, until I could hardly see my hand in front of my face, let alone see my feet on the ground. I couldn't see a thing, and I certainly couldn't see where I was going. Carefully I walked along what I hoped was the lane, but with all that fog, I couldn't be sure. I might easily have stepped over a hedge and never known, and it just so happened I did. As I stepped forward, I felt something wrap around my ankles. I bent down to take a look. It was a washing line with a lot of handkerchiefs pegged to it. I wonder where I am, I wondered out loud. And I'll tell you why. You're in my garden, shouted an angry voice in the fog. A very annoyed, green figure appears through the swirling fog. It was Mr. Fussy. "And just look up, you damn," he yelled. "You've left footprints in my nice clean snow and made a mess of my nice clean handkerchiefs." I apologized to Mr. Fussy and went on my way. "Hello," said a voice below me. "Yeah, hello," I replied. "Who's there?" "It's me, Mr. Mischief," said Mr. Mischief. "Oh, I'm lost. Could you tell me the right way to get to my house?" I asked. "Wait a minute," he said. So I did. "You want to go straight ahead," said Mr. Mischief. After a minute, I thanked him and set off. Although that I tried to, but when I took a step, my feet wouldn't go where I wanted them to, and I fell over. It's true what they say, the bigger you are, the harder you fall. And I had a very long way to fall. "Ouch!" I cried, and then I looked at my feet. Mr. Mischief had tied my shoelaces together. "Grr, Mr. Mischief," I yelled. However, Mr. Mischief has disappeared, but I could hear him giggling mischievously somewhere in the fog. I stood up and limped on. I was now completely lost. I had no idea how I was going to get home. And then I heard another voice. A tiny voice. A tiny voice that sounded a very long way away. "What's that?" it cried. I lifted my foot to take another step. "Stop!" yelled the tiny voice. "Why was that?" I asked. "It's Mr. Small." I bent down to take a look, and sure enough it was Mr. Small. "Oh, thank goodness you've heard me," he said. "You were about to step on my house." I had somehow wandered into Mr. Robinson's garden, and there, just inches from my foot, was Mr. Small's very small house. "And gosh, that was a close call," I said. "You see, it's all this fog. I can't see where I'm going," I explained. "Can I help?" asked Mr. Small. What could you do?" Wait and see, grinned Mr. Small. Then he climbed onto my shoe and held onto my laces. Off we go then, he said. I straightened up and set off. Stop, cried Mr. Small suddenly. Left a bit. Forward. Right a bit. And so, with Mr. Small directing me, we quickly made our way to my house without any more accidents. Thank you, I said as we went indoors out of the cold. Mr. Small smiled and then suddenly a worried expression passed over his face. But how am I going to get home? He asked. Don't worry, I said. As soon as the fog lifts, I'll carry you home. And we had tea and toast to warm ourselves up.